Stop. Beloved starseed of Gaia. Listen. This transmission comes directly from the Arcturian field observers, and what they are showing us right now is already active inside your material field. You have been working. You have been trying. You have been doing everything the visible world said would produce results. And yet the number stays the same. The account resets. The effort lands and dissolves. And you are left standing in the exact same place you started, wondering in the quietest part of yourself whether the problem has always been you. It has not been you. By the end of this transmission, you will understand exactly why your financial flow has been blocked, what hidden pattern has been converting your effort into standstill, and what the Arcturian field observers have already identified about this phase of your material experience. But here is the first revelation. The reason more work has not moved you forward is not a failure of discipline or desire. It is because the field itself was captured, an inherited scarcity instruction, older than your current lifetime of effort, was already running inside your abundance field before you ever made your first move, and a system designed to hold you level will absorb every additional effort you pour into it, not to reward you, but to maintain the ceiling. That is not a metaphor. That is a field mechanism. The Arcturian field observers have mapped across lineages, and they are naming it now because it has become visible in your field. What you have been calling your plateau is not the result of working wrong. It is the output of a scarcity capture that was inherited, not chosen, and that has been operating below the threshold of everything you could see or consciously correct. The exhaustion you feel is real. The shame you carry is not deserved. You are not designed to fail. You were handed a pattern that was designed to hold. The algorithm did not create this moment. It only delivered it. Like this transmission, if you know your struggle with money runs deeper than effort. Subscribe to Arcturian Gold Codex if you are ready to understand the pattern instead of carrying the blame. Comment 77 if you feel this plateau has never really been about how hard you work. Comment, I break the pattern if you are ready to stop feeding a system built to hold you still and begin the work of actual field restoration. This is not motivation. This is a live Arcturian financial field recognition for those who have worked themselves to exhaustion and still cannot understand why nothing moves. The variable was never effort. It was never you. You were guided here because the pattern is already active. What you just heard is not a comfort. It is a diagnosis. And the reason it landed the way it did, the reason something in you became very still or very tight when those words arrived, is because recognition does not feel like information. It feels like being seen by something that already knew. Not something observing you from a distance, something that had already mapped the shape of your financial experience before this transmission began, that could name the rhythm of your losses before you described them, that recognized the architecture of your ceiling without needing to hear you explain it. The Arcturian field observers do not speak in generalities. When they map a financial field, they are reading the actual signature of what is operating beneath the visible layer of a person's material life. Not the decisions, not the habits, not the choices made in waking life. The layer beneath those, the inherited instruction, the coded pattern, the scarcity line running through the lineage, is what they are reading when they say your field was captured before you began. They are not offering comfort to make the difficulty feel smaller. They are offering precision, because precision is what allows correction to actually reach the source. And what they are showing now is this. The pattern that has been holding your financial life at the same level is not new. It is not something you generated through a string of bad decisions. It is not even something that originated with your immediate circumstances, your industry, your location, or the economy you were born into. It is something that was already installed in the system of your material reality long before you had the language to question it, long before you had the awareness to resist it. You were not failing. You were being processed by a mechanism that had only one function: to return you to the level it was programmed to maintain. Every time you climbed, it pulled. Every time you built, it eroded. Every time you reached, something met your hand at the threshold and redirected it back to where the field had always held you. That mechanism has a readable structure, and reading it is the beginning of what changes. When a financial field is captured by inherited scarcity, the most disorienting symptom is not the lack itself. It is the pattern of near arrival. Money comes, but it does not remain. Progress is made, and then something breaks, or something is owed, or something unexpected demands exactly what was just beginning to accumulate. The account approaches a threshold of safety, and then something intervenes, not randomly, but predictably, if you know where to look. The drain is not chaotic, it is consistent. It has a rhythm. That rhythm is the inherited instruction expressing itself through the available channels of your material life. It uses whatever is present, an unexpected bill, a sudden health cost, an opportunity that vanishes at the moment it should have solidified, as its instrument of return. The content changes, the function never does. Think of the field as a vessel. You pour into it everything you earn, everything you work for, everything you try to build. But the vessel was formed under a scarcity instruction that made the base porous, not visibly, not dramatically, but consistently. Whatever reaches a certain level begins to seep out through cracks in the energetic structure of the container itself. You can watch the level rise with every effort, every overtime hour, every careful decision, and then watch it slowly drop again before it ever reaches the place where you could breathe. And you have been told your whole life to pour harder, to work more, to be more disciplined, to be more strategic, as if the problem was always the volume of what you were pouring. No one told you the vessel itself needed correction. No one showed you where the cracks were, or who made them, or why they were there. No one handed you the diagnosis. They handed you another instruction to try harder, and you did, and the result was the same. Because the container had not changed. The Arcturian field language for this is retention failure caused by an older energetic pattern. It means the field is not refusing abundance because of who you are now. It is refusing abundance because of what it was told, before you were conscious, before you could correct it, before you even knew there was something to question. The refusal is not personal. It is structural, and structural problems do not yield to personal effort applied at the surface level. They require a different kind of intervention, one that reaches below the decisions, below the habits, below the conscious layer of financial behavior, all the way down to the instruction that is governing the output. This is why intelligent, sincere, hardworking people remain stuck in repeated cycles of financial drain. It is not stupidity. It is not laziness. It is a pattern of scarcity capture, so deep in the material field that no surface-level effort ever reaches it. And what makes this particular pattern so difficult to see from the inside is that it disguises itself perfectly as personal limitation. The field makes you feel like the problem is you, specifically and irreparably you, because that is the most efficient way to ensure you never look deeper. If you are always looking inward for the flaw, you will never look downward at the mechanism. And the mechanism depends on your blindness to continue operating. What you are feeling right now is not ordinary frustration. It is the moment your system stops pretending this pattern is just bad luck. If this transmission put language around a financial struggle you have been carrying in silence, Arcturian Wealth Scan, the Gold Frequency Audit, was created for this exact stage. It is not another promise of abundance. It is a direct audit of the hidden pattern affecting your material field, so you can begin to see whether the drain is rooted in inherited scarcity, guilt around wealth, energetic rejection, or an older financial instruction still shaping your results. The link is in the first pinned comment, but it will not remain there forever. The first thing the Arcturian reading exposes is what can be called the arrival and dissolution cycle. This is the most commonly recognized symptom in a captured abundance field, and it is the one that generates the most shame, because it appears from the outside to look like poor money management. You receive something, a payment, an opportunity, a windfall, a raise, and within a short window, it is gone. Not because you were reckless, not because you failed to plan, but because the field treats incoming abundance as a temporary anomaly, not a stable state. The old instruction says that stability is not your position, That lack is the baseline, and so whatever arrives is processed as a correction, and the correction is to return you to where the field believes you belong. The money is not lost through carelessness, it is routed out through the path of least resistance that the inherited instruction has already prepared, a cost that appears, a need that surfaces, a situation that requires exactly what just arrived to be released before it can settle. People in this pattern often describe a feeling that their financial life has a ceiling they cannot touch. They can see it, they can sometimes almost reach it, but the moment they get close, something falls. The car, the health situation, the relationship that cost them money, the business that was beginning to work and then stopped. The pattern is not random misfortune scattered across a life. It is a recurring boundary enforced by an inherited command that predates every decision the viewer has consciously made. And it enforces itself with a consistency so precise that if you were to graph the financial history of someone inside this pattern, you would not see chaos, you would see a ceiling, held in place with remarkable regularity, year after year, regardless of what changed in the visible circumstances of their life. The second thing the reading exposes is what happens inside the body when money begins to increase. For many people whose financial field carries inherited scarcity, there is a specific internal response that activates when things start to improve. It is not celebration, it is not relief, it is tension, a contraction somewhere in the chest or the stomach, a low warning signal that something is wrong. That this level of material ease is not a position the body recognizes as safe. Sometimes it manifests as anxiety, a restless need to check the numbers to prepare for the loss that must surely be coming. Sometimes it is a compulsive urge to spend before the money disappears, a kind of anticipatory loss that spends the abundance before the field can drain it, as if spending it first were a form of control over an outcome the body already expects. Sometimes it is guilt, a quiet, formless sense that this level of material ease is not something they are supposed to have. That guilt does not come from nowhere. It is transmitted. It is inherited. It comes from a lineage that equated sacrifice with virtue, that treated financial struggle as the natural condition of good people, that coated wealth as something belonging to others, to people of a different kind. The message, passed forward without words, was that to have more than enough was a form of transgression, something that invited envy, invited collapse, invited punishment. And so the nervous system learned to reject the feeling of material ease long before the conscious mind had any opinion about it at all. When that inheritance sits unaddressed in the field, prosperity becomes genuinely uncomfortable, not philosophically uncomfortable, physiologically uncomfortable. The body rejects the feeling of abundance because the field has been told that abundance is not a safe state for this lineage to occupy. This is what Arcturian field observers call guilt-coded rejection of wealth. It is not a choice. It is not a character flaw. It is a learned and transmitted response encoded into the material field across generations of people who survived through lack and came to understand lack as the price of survival. What kept them safe? Staying small, staying invisible, not having too much, not attracting too much attention with material success was passed forward as a survival instruction. And that instruction is still running in the field of those who carry the lineage, even when the original conditions that created it no longer apply. The inherited nervous system cannot tell the difference between the threat that created the instruction and the safety of the present moment. It only knows the command. Contract when abundance arrives, because expansion is how we were punished before. The third thing the Arcturian reading reveals is the loyalty pattern. This is the most subtle and the most costly. Some people are not holding themselves back from abundance because they fear success or do not believe they deserve it. They are holding themselves back because somewhere in the field there is a loyalty to a lineage that did not have it, an unconscious agreement that says, I will not go further than those who came before me. I will not have what they were denied. To exceed the material level of the ancestral line feels like abandonment, like betrayal, like a kind of desertion. And the system will generate every possible intervention to prevent it. The field does not frame this loyalty as a limitation. It frames it as love, as belonging. as the cost of remaining connected to those who came before. And so the person inside the pattern experiences their own self-restriction, not as a prison, but as a form of faithfulness. And they do not question it, because questioning it would feel like turning their back on the people whose lives made their own possible. This is the pattern that makes a person inexplicably self-sabotage at the exact moment they can break through. The business decision that made no rational sense, the refusal of an opportunity that would have changed everything, the relationship that ended at a moment when it was beginning to provide real stability. These are not failures of character, they are loyalty corrections. Moments where the field overrides the conscious intention of the person in order to preserve alignment with the ancestral position. It is not irrational behavior. It is the field maintaining what it believes is its correct orientation, choosing belonging over expansion, because it was never shown that both could coexist. The fourth thing the reading exposes is what happens in the space between effort and result. People in scarcity-captured fields work. They work sincerely and consistently. They apply skill and discipline and time. From the outside and even from the inside, the input looks sufficient, more than sufficient. But there is a zone between the effort they pour in and the material output they receive that has been compromised. Not by laziness, not by incompetence, but by a field-level filter that was set long ago to ensure that certain kinds of abundance do not fully arrive. The effort enters the field. It is real. It is visible. But somewhere between the input and the output, a portion is diverted, absorbed by the inherited pattern, redirected away from consolidation and toward maintenance of the captured state. What emerges as a material result is always slightly less than what the effort should have produced. Not dramatically, not always visibly, but consistently enough that over years and decades the gap between what was deserved and what arrived becomes a quiet source of bewilderment and grief. This is why the viewer can look at the objective evidence of their own life, the hours, the skills, the sincerity of their effort, and feel a profound and bewildering disconnect between what they have put in and what they have received back. The disconnect is not imagined. The mismatch is real. But its origin is not in the effort itself. It is in the filter the effort must pass through before it can become a material result. And a filter that was calibrated to a scarcity instruction will continue to produce scarcity-level outputs regardless of how much the effort that feeds it grows. The fifth thing the Arcturian field reading names is the disguise. The scarcity pattern does not announce itself. It does not appear as a visible force or a recognizable structure. It appears as ordinary life, as normal bad luck, as the kind of financial difficulty that everyone experiences sometimes, and that can be explained away in 100 rational directions. This is what makes it so persistent, because as long as the viewer can explain each individual drain with a surface-level reason, the economy, the timing, the circumstances, they never have to look at the underlying pattern that connects all of those reasons into a single coherent thread. The Arcturian observers identify this as the disguise function of inherited scarcity. The pattern survives by remaining invisible. It mimics randomness. It mimics ordinary misfortune. It allows the viewer to spend a lifetime attributing repeated financial loss to bad timing, bad choices, bad luck, bad influence. Anything except the actual inherited instructions still running beneath all of it, and the shame that accumulates from years of explaining individual losses without ever seeing the pattern becomes its own form of energetic weight, one that further compresses the abundance field and makes it even harder for new financial energy to enter and stay. Shame is not a side effect of the pattern. It is a mechanism of it, because shame keeps the person focused on their own perceived inadequacy, which is exactly where the pattern needs their attention to remain. Here is what the Arcturian field observers are making clear in this transmission. The exhaustion you have been feeling around money, the specific kind of tired that comes not from a single loss, but from years of effort that never seems to change the underlying position, is not evidence of your limits. It is evidence of a system working exactly as an inherited scarcity instruction designed it to work. The system absorbs effort, it converts progress back into reset, and it presents the entire cycle to the conscious mind of the person inside it as personal failure, so that the person looks inward for the problem instead of downward into the field where the actual mechanism is operating. You are not weak, you are not careless, you are not undisciplined. You were running a clean engine through a compromised field, and every additional effort you made was filtered through a structure you could not yet see. The engine was never the problem. The road it was traveling was built on ground that had been deliberately compressed. What the Arcturians want you to understand about this phase is this. The fact that the pattern is becoming visible is not a sign that you are still trapped. It is the first sign that the field is shifting. Patterns that remain completely invisible cannot be addressed. They require a threshold of recognition before the distortion can be corrected. The moment you begin to see your repeated financial experience as a pattern, as a coherent, structured, inherited mechanism rather than a random accumulation of personal failures, the pattern begins to lose one of its primary defenses. The disguise begins to fail. And once the disguise fails, the mechanism beneath it can be seen clearly enough to be named. And naming is where correction begins. The disguise is what keeps inherited scarcity in place across generations. The people before you carried the same drain, and they called it fate or bad luck or their station in life, and they passed it forward unnamed. They passed it forward one-named. They passed the ceiling forward with them because they never had language for what the ceiling was, who had set it, or how long it had been there. Naming it is not a small act. Naming a financial field distortion is the beginning of what changes the field. Not instantly, not magically, but structurally. Because you cannot correct a mechanism you have never been shown, and you cannot refuse an inheritance you never knew you received. What has been running in your material field is older than this lifetime of effort. It was coded into the lineage under conditions of genuine survival pressure, conditions that required smallness, required sacrifice, required the suppression of abundance as a form of protection. The ancestors who generated this pattern were not weak. They were responding to real material threat, but the instruction they generated to survive those conditions was written into the field and left there, passed forward through every generation that followed, long after the original conditions had changed. The threat passed. The instruction did not, and so people born into safety continued to live by a survival code written for a time they never personally experienced, obeying commands issued by a lineage that no longer needed them to be small in order to survive. You are living in a different set of conditions, but you are still obeying an older instruction, and that instruction, until it is seen clearly and addressed directly, will continue to process your present-day effort through the logic of an ancient survival response that no longer serves the material reality you are actually living in. It will take the energy of your current ambition and run it through a filter calibrated to a world that no longer exists. And the output will always reflect the older world, not the one you are standing in now. The Arcturian field observers are precise about this. They do not see your repeated financial difficulty as punishment. They do not see it as evidence of spiritual unworthiness or material incompatibility with abundance. They see it as a readable pattern of inherited distortion, a lineage-level scarcity instruction that has been running without interruption, shaping the material output of every person in its line and waiting, actively waiting, for the moment when one member of the lineage develops sufficient clarity to see it fully and begin the work of field correction. Every lineage that carries this distortion has the potential to produce the person who names it. That naming is not just personal liberation, it is lineage-level correction. What one person sees clearly enough to refuse, the field releases, not only for them, but from the line that carried it forward. That moment is this one. What you have been calling your financial plateau is the surface output of a field that was captured before you began. What you have been calling your failures are the predictable results of working inside a distorted container. What you have been calling your limitations are the boundaries of an inherited instruction that was never meant to be permanent, only inherited, only unnamed, only uncorrected. Not your limits, not your character, not the ceiling of what you are capable of receiving, a structure placed inside the field by conditions that have since expired, maintained by the silence of every generation that passed it forward without questioning its origin. You are not watching this transmission because you accidentally landed here. You are watching it because the pattern has become visible enough that something in you stopped dismissing it as ordinary bad luck. Something in you already knew that the drain was too consistent, the ceiling too precise, the rhythm of reset too structured to be random. That knowing is not despair. That knowing is the field beginning to surface what it has been carrying in silence. The pattern rises into visibility because the field has reached the threshold where concealment is no longer possible, where the pressure of the distortion finally exceeds the capacity of the disguise to hold it below the surface. This is not collapse. It is emergence. The pattern is becoming visible because you are ready to see it, and because the field can no longer afford to keep it hidden. Repeat this if it is true for you. I no longer confuse the pattern with my identity, not as a wish, not as a declaration of what you hope will be true someday, as a statement of recognition that what has been shaping your financial field is a pattern you inherited, not a verdict on who you are. The mechanism is not you. The ceiling is not your natural height. The drain is not proof of what you deserve. It is proof of what was handed to you, and proof that you are now capable of seeing it clearly enough to stop carrying it forward as if it were your own. The scarcity line is readable, the distortion is identifiable, the instruction is correctable, and the first correction is always the same: to stop calling the mechanism by your own name. Before you scroll, leave one sign in the comments that this pattern has already touched your financial life. It could be money that never stays, sudden drains, repeated setbacks, guilt when things begin to improve, or the feeling that stability always slips away. Name it clearly. If this transmission recognized something you have been carrying in silence, share it with someone who works hard but still feels trapped in an invisible cycle of lack. And if you are ready to understand the pattern instead of blaming yourself, subscribe to Arcturian Gold Codex. You are not watching this by accident. You are recognizing a pattern already in motion. And this is only the beginning.